Oh, I didn't see you there. Hey, it's me, Dylan, from Tales of Trusia. You know them, the ones with millions of subscribers. Um, it's crazy that you're here. I was just going to read one of my favorite stories about Fawn Hallow Manor. If you'd like, you could stay a little while and maybe listen. I don't think you'd be upset. Okay, well, I'm going to jump right into it.
Yay!
Beneath the ornate halls and ballrooms of Fawn Hallow Manor lies the shame of House Saloon. Deep within the dungeon, the youngest of the 6 saloon children hunches over, chained in the darkness. Disfigured since birth and cast away from the townspeople, and only occasionally seen by his family, he could hardly be called human. Unloved and discarded from the day his mother laid eyes upon him, his form so horrific it deemed him unworthy of a name. His siblings nicknamed him Baby Yagrim. It could be seen as cruel if the child even knew what the Yagrim were. They would chant it as they stood around him, mocking, laughing. The child's sense was so twisted and undeveloped that he couldn't even know that their behavior was wrong. This was his life. When the other children grew bored of their loud laughter, they would turn to abuse, beating him until he was nothing more than a bloody, slumped form upon the ground. The laughter grew less and less through the years, and the beatings more brutal. Baby Yagrim's mother was a heartless, cold woman, born into nobility, a lady of the court. She was so concerned that someone would find out she spawned the child that she had the midwife and entire staff killed. She couldn't let others know or associate her to some type of curse or impurity. The child had to be some result of Vorkov. It had to be some curse from him. There was no possible way she would produce that child. She would go down to the dark, damp dungeon every day with a heart full of hate. She would sit in the corner on an old wooden chair and scream, exclaim, "Why? Why? Why? There is no way such a vile creature could come from me." She would do this without fail every day. Perhaps it made her feel better, but it scared the child greatly. For years, dread would build when his mother came and yelled at him. He preferred the beatings. At least then, he was getting touched by someone. Even a fist is softer than the stones and chains. The lord of the house was perhaps the worst of them all. He only went to the dungeon to throw the child food. Even with the boy's lack of speech and understanding, he knew what his father's eyes showed. A blank and profound indifference. The boy knew he cared least of all, which was in a way worse than being hated. Baby Yagrim was living the lowest form of existence, and from which he grew until one day it was enough. Years of pulling his shackles loosened them until one day he was free of them. In that newfound freedom, he hunted every one of his siblings, dragging them one by one, screaming into the dungeon, shackling them to the cold stone and irons. Once he had them all, he searched for the lady of the house. When he finally found her in her wooden wardrobe, he tore the doors from their frames. He could see her clutching her chest, fear emanating from her eyes. Now she was afraid. Her fear grew more and more once the child shouted, "Why? Why? Why?" over and over until he freed her fearful head from her body. The Lord was spared from the screams, for he had not yet returned from his hunting trip. When he finally opened the front door of the manor, he found nothing but silence, until the deformed creature emerged from the shadows with something in his hands. Once he got closer to his father, he rolled what he was holding at his father's feet. To his father's immense horror, he saw his wife's head bounce off his polished hunting boots. When the father looked into his youngest son's eyes, all he could see was his reflection of indifference now coming back to him. The townspeople dare not go to Fawn Hallow Manor. They say you can still hear the sounds of the other children shackled in the dungeon. The story of baby Yagrim has been told generation after generation until his name was morphed into Bjogrim. This is the story of Bjogrim of Fawn Hallow Manor. Thank you so much for joining us. And if it tickles your fancy, hit the like button, subscribe. You can even turn on the bell feature so that you can know when we post again. If you don't do that, just know Bjogrim will find you. He will drag you down into the dungeon, and he will chain you along with the long-forgotten carcasses of his siblings. Okay, hope you have a good day.